Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Intensive Treatment, your number one spot for all things Arkham related. Okay, so we're doing something a bit different today. We're starting a kind of sub-series within the podcast, something we can just kind of go back to every now and again. What me and Swifty came up with was a little series that we'd like to call Arkham Files, where we take a look at the various characters in the Arkhamverse, give you a breakdown about their history within the games, and give you a bit of knowledge and also some opinions on how we feel about them as characters and how they were integrated into the series itself. So for this first episode, we're going to talk about somebody that kind of just fell off the Arkham totem pole and
I
kind of
think
hit
off the
every
face of the
branch.
earth too.
Hit every branch on the way down, and like
Yep.
we're talking about Zsasz, which is a bit of an interesting character in my opinion when it comes to Arkham related villains, because this was somebody that started off as a prominent story villain and then just kind of fizzled out as the games went along.
Yeah.
And even in the supplementary material, like the Assault on Arkham movie and the comics and stuff. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about Victor Zsasz, his backstory, and what made him the person he is. So, do you want to get into that, or do you want me to kind of recap it?
Well, I mean, you can kind of go through it if you want, but I mean, I do have kind of like a thesis for Zsasz.
Okay.
But I mean, obviously, Zsasz is a sociopath,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
now, if we recall back, here's one thing that the phone calls in Arkham City did, right? Was they gave us some backstory to Zsasz and
Yes.
who he was before the killing started. Now, he grew up a pretty easy young childhood. Um, I mean, his parents were rich, I believe, from what I remember,
Yeah.
and he kind of had everything going for him.
Yes.
But then somewhere along the lines, and obviously it goes back to that, in his words, that fateful summer day outside the Iceberg Lounge, where he decided he wanted to start killing people. He took pleasure in it. I mean, obviously, we know that he would arrange corpses in lifelike poses, and we saw this in Arkham Knight. He would leave them there like that and put them in poses and kind of I would assume for his own amusement and for others to see what he could do, I guess. I don't know what goes on in the minds of serial killers. And then obviously his infamous markings on his body is because he marks off every killing with a knife scratch or a knife slash rather on his body. And he's waiting for that perfect moment to put Batman's on there.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
and I mean, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that both of his parents die. I forget how they die. It might have been just like either an accident or something like cancer or whatever the case. And then he gets into, I believe he either gets into or was already gambling. So
Yes.
he gambles at the Iceberg Lounge. He loses all of his money to the Penguin. And then I think, like we mentioned on that fateful day, he needs to find some sort of feeling. He's a very lost soul, so he ends up murdering people. And like we mentioned, he puts tallies on his own body of all the victims he kills, mostly women. Yeah, he is a very interesting individual villain for not only Batman, but like the Arkham, like not only the Arkham games, but just Batman in general. Like, it's pretty gnarly there.
Well, I got up the Arkham wiki page as well just now. And
Okay.
it says here that on that summer in the Iceberg Lounge, he started getting pretty good at gambling because in the beginning it says he admitted. I remember in the phone call he said he wasn't very good, and he finally started to get somewhere with it, and he went up against the Penguin. And now, mind you, this time period's a little weird because it takes place between Arkham Origins and Arkham Asylum. Now, that's not a very. I don't exactly know how old Zsasz is in Arkham Asylum, but he looks pretty old. I mean, he's not old, but he looks like a pretty seasoned adult. But no, so he starts playing with the Penguin, and mind you, the only person that wins in the Iceberg Lounge is the Penguin because obviously it's gang related, and he's going to win no matter what. So Penguin beat Zsasz, and Zsasz lost all of his money, everything that he had, because he went all in, and he was thrown out. And after that, he wandered the streets crying. And now I'm going to read straight from Arkham Wiki, and it says, as Zsasz contemplated suicide by jumping off a bridge, a homeless man threatened him with a knife, demanding his money. And Zsasz became infuriated, took the knife, and held it to the man's throat. Something overcame Zsasz, and he killed the man. And Zsasz felt pure euphoria afterwards.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So, really, Zsasz just killed this guy. It was fueled by anger that he lost all his money. And obviously, him losing his parents just then didn't help at all either. But I think the main kicker here is that he has a hatred for Penguin because Penguin took all of what he had, which was, judging by how wealthy his parents were, probably millions. And why you would walk into a place with millions of dollars, I don't know. But still, nonetheless, he did. And he lost it all and was thrown out and was basically mocked. So all this started over gambling and the loss of his parents.
Yeah.
Just to show kind of, and I think it's an interesting parallel for Batman because Batman lost his parents, but he turned to use it for the good. Zsasz lost his parents and turned and used it for the worse, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's even more twisted because Zsasz, when he murders people, he gets like some sort of, pleasure out of doing it. And
right.
It's absolutely gruesome and just like it's nuts. Now I'm curious, when you played Arkham Asylum for the first time and you got to Zsasz and everything, was that the first time you've ever heard of Zsasz? Because it was for me.
It was, yeah.
I was gonna say, because I can't it was funny because I love Batman Begins. I love Batman Begins. Like, it's one of my favorite Batman movies. I didn't notice this as a kid, but nowadays when I go back and rewatch it, he's in the movie. Like, it's a blink and you'll miss it thing, but it's interesting going back to it and just be like, yeah, Zsasz was in like. In
and I believe he's also in Dark Knight Rises for a split second.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the Arkham games is where like I really got to know him, and he in the first game, like, he was pretty, threatening, and he just kind of terrible.
He was so creepy.
Yeah.
That leads into what I was just going to ask you is what were your first impressions of Zsasz when you first see him in the electric room?
I mean, like you said, it was a very creepy vibe. Like, just this mere sight of him just, it freaked me out as a small, like, 11, 10-year-old kid, seeing this man with these, scars all over his body of all the people he's like, that's some intense shit right there.
Yeah.
So, but as I got involved, because the Arkham games is what made me be more interested in Batman more than anything. Like, I was getting interested in all the characters and going back through all the books I could find and whatever. And I found Zsasz to be such an interesting, like you said, it's basically kind of like a weird parallel to Batman, where, they're both rich children, their parents die, and, one uses their, influence and all that for good, and the other just uses it for, like, just the most gnarly, intense, dark shit you've ever seen. Like, it's absolutely nuts.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was finished there.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say, I think that what really scared me initially with Zsasz in Arkham Asylum was the way he spoke and the way he moved his body, the way they animated him, made him
Yeah.
seem so like a slithery serpent almost. And he was just like, just no matter what, he just wanted death.
Mhm.
He looked like death. He looked like he killed people. He just looked disturbing. Um, and also the fact that he had no hair on his body really creeped me out because he was just completely shaved.
Yeah.
Um, it just added to the look, and I love that they have him. He has such an interesting look. He has like those arm sockets,
Yeah.
and he has the pants, but he doesn't have, and they're short pants, and he has shackles, but he doesn't have a shirt or long pants like
No.
other inmates, and it just adds to this really unique, creepy look. But I think one of my favorite things after playing the Arkham games, knowing who Zsasz was rereading the Shadow of the Bat 90s comic run
Hmm.
because he's in there and one of the first issues he's brutally murdering a family and a child. He like slit their throat. Um, and it just shows how gruesome Zsasz was in the comics as well. So
Yeah.
he's just a force of murder and destruction.
Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. I guess now we can kind of talk about, his part in the grand scheme of the series, which most of that mainly comes down to both Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's definitely like in Asylum, like he was a core villain,
He
which
was.
was definitely an interesting thing at the time, since I mean Zsasz was like mostly an unknown character. Unless you were a diehard Batman fan, you didn't know who Zsasz was. I didn't know who Zsasz was. You didn't know who Zsasz was. Like, nobody knew who the hell this guy was. And the fact that they made him like a prominent villain in the story, I mean, he doesn't have much screen time, but like he's still a central villain, was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So like you could have gone with any number of villains to kind of fit another role, but like Zsasz was just, he wanted to murder people like everyone else, but his way of doing it was just completely out there and
Yeah.
much more different than say the other villains like, Joker, Killer Croc, Scarecrow, all them.
Yeah.
It was just downright sinister. And
That's probably
I've
the best word you've used to describe it too, is sinister. It's just very evil. It's
yeah,
like now, and whereas like what Joker does is evil, but
yeah,
I think Zsasz gets down to like the grittiest part of murdering, where he does it for like Joker does it to prove a point or something.
mhm,
Um, Zsasz just does it for pure enjoyment and euphoria for killing
yeah,
someone, which is sick, and that's how usually it is. So that,
yeah.
yeah, very interesting.
It's very realistic, like in terms
Yes,
of um, you know seeing Zaz, as Zaz could definitely fit in the real world, and that's what I
for
find
sure.
most scary about him. Is like, Joker and all of them. They come up with these elaborate plans, and Joker's like, oh, he's just spreading Joker venom all over Gotham, or uh, Scarecrow wants everybody doused with fear gas. No, Zaz just wants you dead, like just
Right.
like stabbed and dead. Like he won't pull a gun on you or anything, but like
Right.
it very like up close and personal, and that's terrifying to think about.
Yeah.
Uh, so,
No, it is because it's like it makes you think like they're there may be like a real Victor Zsasz out there, not his name, but you know what I mean, like the persona of Victor Zsasz.
Yeah.
There has to be somebody out there who has done something like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. There could definitely be a Victor Zsasz type out
Right.
in the real world. And that's just horrifying to think about.
Exactly. It's like, it's freaky. And that was
Yeah.
the thing I always got with Zsasz is like, you had this unease whenever you're around him in the game or you hear it. Whenever I hear him speak, it's uneasy. And I like when I was a kid, I would always look around my room to make sure I was alone when he was talking on the screen. I'm like, I'm freaked the hell out right now. Like that's how I would think. And it still creeps me out to an extent now, even being older. It's still a little creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Arkham City definitely like amped that up and just made it even more unnerving. Because for most of the time you rarely see him until you take him out. So you're just hearing this terrifying figure on the phone, like telling you all this shit. Like that is some real psycho shit.
No, it is
nuts. So he's in asylum. He gets his few minutes to shine, and he has a couple encounters with Batman, and I think he might have popped up near the end of the game. When Joker's having his huge party or whatever the hell. But so they do that, and then Arkham City, they're like, okay, we're gonna make him a side mission, which is like, okay, whatever. You got other things to focus on. I get it. So I was like, we'll make a side mission, and that's incredibly fitting. And I like the setup for his part in the game, but I just wish the execution could have been a whole lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about it in the other intensive treatment episode, it's like the phone calls are just so annoying. Not the calls themselves, but the whole process is really annoying, and it kind of kills it. Because what could have been a really creepy, very up close and personal kind of side mission felt very distant and kind of like, okay, well, this is like the recurring repetitive thing that we have to keep doing. Just answer the phone and track it, and then it's done.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really to it. I wish it was something even creepier than what we got. Because phone calls are creepy, especially when you don't know where they're coming from. But I don't know, just something else would have made it more memorable than what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely a little all over the place for me. Literally going all over the place to track his phone calls. Like, it's just they didn't really. It's weird because they had the idea, but they didn't really know how to execute that. And like I said in that video, the build up for that kind of sucks with tracing the calls, but the payoff is really interesting. I like it a lot. Where it's just kind of you're going in this room, making your way through, and while he's taunting these hapless victims, almost ready to murder them on the spot. And then you take them out, and then that's it. So but yeah, I think as far as portrayals go, I think I liked him a little bit better in Arkham City than I did in Asylum, because Asylum you don't really get to know him at all. He's just kind of there as like just a villain for you take down. So like you get maybe one dialogue exchange with like some doctor you're talking to, but in the city they give you pretty much everything you need to know about him. Like they give you the bare essentials, and it works to that benefit. But
just for sure,
just the gameplay part of it is what ultimately ruins that side mission for me, at least. So
no, I agree. And on that note, do you think we should move on to Arkham Knight now?
Yeah, we can move to Arkham Knight. I was just going to lump in a whole bunch of stuff, since after this.
Oh yeah, go ahead. No, do whatever.
I was like, well, after this, they just kind of forget about him. Like he makes occasional cameos here and there, like in Assault on Arkham. Like he gets a little with Batman. They they recreate that moment from Batman Returns where like he has the person up at like knife point or whatever you want to call it, shoots the grappling hook behind him and pulls like a brick out of the wall. It's just a fun like throwback, but like that's it. And then at night, it's even worse at night because you just see him on a security camera. That's it.
Right. Like, what the hell happened to him? Where is he? Why was he even there?
He just disappears.
Why was he in the middle of a riot? Like, what? That is so not Zsasz's MO.
Yeah, no.
Like, now it does make sense later on that there was some thugs and they were all murdered and propped up. And that's kind of the only Easter egg next to the video camera that we get of Zsasz. So
yeah, I mean that though, like, didn't Professor Pig do that? Or he might have.
What was that?
Didn't Professor Pig? He propped up those bodies, didn't he? Or maybe I'm
thinking
of something.
It was Zsasz, because if you scan it, it's a Riddler. It's one of Riddler's challenges to.
Okay. Now I know.
And then it gives you like a whole like backstory thing.
In my mind, I was thinking of the Professor Pig side mission where you see all the bandage like faces, like the.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And stuff. I was thinking about that, but yeah, you're totally right about the other like prop bodies. Which he has a weird obsession of doing, like in Asylum. That's a riddle too, where it's just like you're in this room and like you see these.
That's like, right.
At like a poker table.
I forgot about that.
And like, did he do this in his downtime or something?
You know what's so weird is now that I think about that, knowing Rocksteady and their history of how in depth their Easter eggs can go, I'm thinking, what if them playing poker is a callback to his gambling problems?
Maybe. I never thought.
Just throwing that out there.
Huh.
But yeah, so that's interesting because I forgot about that Easter egg until you even brought it up, and now it gets me thinking. There you go. There's some fan theory right there.
It's
some Arkham fan fiction.
The one that it's just.
And it's like the least amount of information. It's just like, poker, Zsasz. Interesting.
Yeah, right. But yeah, that was it for Night, and I can't really think of any other cameos that he's.
I feel like his name popped up in Origins, but he was, nothing ever happened with that.
Yeah, he was like on a clipboard or some whatever. It's like
which again doesn't make a lot of sense too. If this whole Iceberg Lounge thing happened in between Origins and Asylum, another Origins thing that doesn't make any sense continuity wise.
I mean, they don't really say like if Batman, like in his story, they don't really say if Batman was active by that point or not.
That's
so
true.
They could definitely like put it at any spot, whether it be before Origins, whether it's before Bruce actually becomes Batman, or maybe it happened like some point during his career where Zsasz went nuts and just started murdering a bunch of people. So
no, that's true.
You do with that whatever you want. Maybe they'll do that in a Origin sequel if that ever happens, which I doubt it will.
Yeah, unfortunately.
One tidbit I just remembered as we were talking about it, but originally Zsasz was supposed to be a side quest for the Season of Infinite DLC.
Was it?
Or just for the main game in general, yeah. He was going to have a side mission, but they cut it at like the very last minute. I guess because of scheduling conflicts and shit like that, like just deadlines and whatever. So I would have been really interested to see what they do with him, for the finale of the trilogy, which I'm sure they could have done some interesting stuff. Maybe another reason they cut it was because it was too similar to Professor Pig, or like I guess they had that idea in their head, but yeah. But yeah, all we got was just that worthless cameo on his security cam.
I mean, to be honest, like what would have been really interesting to me is like being able to go in some of the very tall Gotham skyscrapers and maybe seeing some like murder scenes. Having to like use your detective skills and like hone in things in the whole room, like look at why is there a glass broken on the floor over there? What reconstruct it, kind of like Arkham Origins, and
Yeah.
and then kind of see if there's a pattern between the serial killings, and you figure out it's Zsasz. That would have been interesting, I think, because Arkham Knight did something very good, which was when there was murder scenes, they showed blood and they showed gruesome imagery.
Yeah.
I take the hospital scene for the Ra's al Ghul side mission as one of those. There was bodies upon bodies piled up,
Yeah.
and it was creepy. It was really creepy.
They definitely took advantage of their M rating. And,
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's kind of sad though, because like, I mean, I don't know if you want to get into final thoughts or whatever, but like Zsasz to me had like so much potential, but it felt like each game, like they either didn't know what to do with him or they just didn't care about him. So,
well, I think the problem was that they treated Zsasz too much as a side character that people don't have to care about. Whereas I would have loved to be invested in him as a villain,
I would too.
and have him as like an actual threat on a larger scale than just one side mission. He doesn't need to be the main villain, but he could definitely have an integral part in the main story. I mean, they kind of, again, like you said, he had like a couple minutes of screen time in Arkham Asylum, but each scene was a progression through the story. I don't know. In Arkham Knight, he could have been working with, behind the scenes as one of the villains, killers on the street, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
No idea. But they could have done something to make him memorable and overall more interesting. Because again, like you said, he just feels like they didn't know what to do with him. When there's a lot of subject material they could have used. I mean, he's a serial killer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is unfortunate because I would have loved to see more of him. He was very creepy and always made it harken back to Arkham Asylum. That initial atmosphere, he gave it that in the other games. Well, Arkham City, not really Night, but
yeah, he definitely brought up the creep factor for sure with those games.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably like such an underrated villain in the series, and I wish they could have done more, but like at the same time though, it's like, what do you do with a serial? Like you do like hostages and all that stuff, and like maybe you could do like a murder mystery type thing where you're tracking them down, but like other than that, what else are you gonna do with them?
Yeah.
So
that's true. No, that's true.
But yeah, that though was probably like the Arkham series did one of like a favorite thing of mine, where it's like they took these obscure characters and like made them, actual threatening people. Like just they made them interesting, and, especially for Zaz's case, like for his story in Arkham City, and just him in Arkham Asylum. Like he had something about him that made him more interesting than say like other villains like Poison Ivy and Killer Croc and Scarecrow and them. Like there was just something about him that stood out compared to the rest. Yeah,
I agree. It's another one of those Arkham scenarios that ended in unfortunate fate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't really have much else to say. Do you have much else?
Not really, other than release the Zsasz cut. Release the Zsasz cut. Well, if they remastered Arkham Knight, I would love to see that side mission.
Yeah,
regardless,
absolutely.
Even if it is kind of like Professor Pig, I'd still like to see what they would have did. Just to have
it's more sad that Calendar Man of all people had more impact on Arkham Knight than Zsasz did.
That is so unfortunate. You're right.
Oh man. Yeah. But I think that's going to be a wrap for this first edition of Arkham Files. I
Yeah.
guess that's what we're calling it. Sure. What do you think about Zsasz in the comment section below? Tell us if you like him, if you don't like him, whatever. Send us a comment. Like the video, all that. And yeah, I can't wait to do another one of these. This is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And pretty fun.
It
I
is.
think next time, like, I'd want to talk about somebody that we never actually seen before. Like, I'm thinking like somebody like Prometheus or like
Yes.
Great
This would
White
be
Shark,
awesome.
somebody
Killer
like that.
Moth would be cool.
Killer Moth, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
what? Maxi Zeus. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
Max
characters in
Zeus,
there.
yeah, that'd be pretty good. Let us know also, who would you like to see for our new sub-series? What Arkham character would you like us to delve into?
What if
But
they're
until
just like,
next
do a
time,
deep dive in Batman?
yeah,
Okay,
it's just like,
sure.
do Batgirl. Okay. Okay. But until next time, stick around, subscribe. Be sure to check out our next episode of Intensive Treatment, whenever that may be, or whatever topic that is. So, yeah, have a great night. Thank you all so much for watching, and stay locked up and keep it nutty. See ya.
See you guys.